I'm standing outside one of the largest hurricane simulators in the world for one reason: to see if Symantec's business continuity and storage solutions can stand up against a Class 3 hurricane. And I'm bringing you along for the ride.
Recently, Hurricane Sandy left America's East Coast in ruins, and many companies were faced with a true worst-case scenario. And Sandy hasn't been the only time that Mother Nature has flexed her muscle.
So sit back as I take you behind the scenes of one of the wildest disaster recoveries anyone has ever done. It might not be a Sharknado, but it's definitely a DataCane. Here's where the damage, or fun, depending on how you look at it, takes place. While they're putting on the finishing touches, let's take a closer look at the IBHS Research Center. The test chamber itself is 6 stories high and has 21,000 square feet of space. That's enough to accommodate 9 average homes. Now, it has 105 fans, and each fan is over 5 feet in diameter and is powered with a 350 horsepower motor. Each of these fans can push 230,000 cubic feet of air per minute. Together, that's 24 million cubic feet a minute. In fact, the fans have to be shut down by 1 p.m. or they could cause a power outage throughout the neighboring towns. And that would be a whole other disaster recovery. I'm here now with Ann Cope, Vice President of Research at IBHS. Hi, Ann.
Hello.
So when Symantec's not trying to flood a data center, what normally goes on here?
Actually, we do some pretty cool stuff here. There's no other facility like this in the world. We can subject a 2-story building to wind, hail, wind-driven rain, and wildfire.
What have you found from the research that you guys do?
The most important thing that we do here, and we learn small nuggets of it every day, but what we figure out how to do is with cost-effective ways to make our homes and businesses stronger, ways that we can deal with all the stuff that Mother Nature is dishing out.
Right. And you can do it in a safe environment as opposed to being out in the storm or being out in the rubble and getting hurt or something like that.
Definitely. By recreating Mother Nature here in our lab, we can do it step by step, piece by piece, find out what happens first, what are the good things that we can do to make it not happen, how can we keep these buildings together, and we keep our engineers out of harm's way.
Now, I know you want to see this baby in action, but first, let's take a look at what we've put into this beast and how we plan to save the business service, applications, and information. For that, I need to speak with Chad Birch from Symantec. How are you?
Great.
Can you tell us what we have here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a multi-node, 3-tier clustered architecture that we've built using a back-end database, WebLogic tier, and a web server in the front of it. And we've got it running one of our mission-critical applications that we're protecting and ready for failover.
Okay.
It's running on Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It's got Windows, and we're running that all virtualized within VMware vSphere.
Okay, great. And what's the mission critical service?
Yeah, so we're running the Norton eStore on here. So as you can imagine, that one's kind of critical to us. Millions of customers go out every day and purchase, upgrade, renew their subscriptions. So this one's pretty critical and one that you want to keep up and running as long as you can and all the time.
Yeah, of course. And how are you protecting it?
Yeah, great question. So we're using Storage Foundation and Replicator to keep all the data in sync. But then we're also using Symantec Cluster Server to do the site-to-site failover. Right. So from our primary site to our DR site.
Cool. So do you think it'll work? Have you guys tested it before?
Yeah, so we have several tools that we can use for automated testing so that you don't actually have to do a complete failover. You can test all this stuff while your primary applications and services are still up and running. So we've done several of those tests. We also have, we've been able to use our DR Advisor tool to kind of proactively look at the 2 sites and make sure that they're not getting out of sync or there's no drift or anything that's risking for the failover. So yeah, I'm really confident this will work.
Cool. But you have to be a little bit sad to see the servers go bye-bye.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who puts this much effort and time into building something like this, you don't want to sacrifice them, but this is all for the greater good here. So yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you so much,
Thank
John.
you.
Appreciate it.
Now, Chad mentioned that we'll have our data center fail over to another site in Virginia about 400 miles away, but it's actually being monitored and managed by our team in Mountain View, which is about 2,700 miles away. Let's see what's happening in Mountain View. Hey, Ryan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So, Ryan, I want to understand, we're failing over to a site in Virginia. You're in Mountain View, and our primary data center here is here in Richburg, South Carolina. Shouldn't you be at one of the sites either in Virginia or South Carolina? Can you explain some of that?
That's a good question. Let's put it this way. If a disaster hits, you don't want to be anywhere near it, kind of like you are right now.
Right.
But seriously, you want to make sure you and your team are out of harm's way. At the same time, you want to make sure your business services, your applications, and your data are protected and running when you need them. That is one of the great benefits that our software brings. It is automated and monitored from a remote distance to make sure that your application fails over and you're out of harm's way.
And how do you do that?
We do this by monitoring the entire stack with our Veritas Operations Manager. This is our console that graphically represents our environment and tells us in real time what's happening with our applications and our servers as we fail them over from site to site.
You mentioned automation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. First, you need to understand that this business service is running across multiple platforms with both physical and virtual environments. To manage this complex system, you need intelligent software. This is provided by Symantec. We are using our virtual business services within Veritas Cluster Server to orchestrate the failover, startup, and shutdown of this complex environment. With this automated tool to manage this environment, we're able to reduce downtime, minimize human error, and in the long run, reduce cost.
I was told you're not using traditional storage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. We do not have any SAN or NAS or shared storage in this environment. We are running in a completely shared nothing configuration using Intel solid-state drives. This shared nothing offering is a new feature coming out in our next release of Storage Foundation.
So you're using solid-state devices in this configuration. That must be expensive, right?
And no, that's actually one of the misconceptions about SSD. On a pure cost per gigabyte, yeah, they are more expensive than a spinning disk. But in reality, when you look at the new applications, the performance characteristics that they require, the dollars per IOPS that you get out of SSD justify the placement and justify the need in your data center. But I do want to make it clear that installing SSDs is really only half of the solution. In order to maximize that investment, you really need an intelligent, capable management software in between. With Symantec, we can utilize SSDs for caching, for mirroring, for tiering, and make sure that you are maximizing both your CapEx and your OpEx when investing in this new technology.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Appreciate it.
You bet.
It's almost time to unleash nature's fury, but before that, let's find out what it took to make it happen. To help me, I spoke with special effects lead from GB Films, Jeff Herron. Jeff has worked on movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, Die Hard, and even Pirates of the Caribbean. But I wanted to see what it takes to send a data center into a hurricane. Hey, Jeff. Last year, Symantec asked you to drop a server off a 250-foot building. This year, they want you to put one through a hurricane. What did it take to pull that off?
Well, it started out with a little bit of design and a lot of steel.
Okay.
And knowing, that we're going to be in this great hurricane test facility with 100-mile-an-hour plus winds,
Right.
to design a set to withstand the wind force and also the transfer of water from the flood tank into the server room. That was the major challenge, and we started out with about 16,000 pounds of steel and glass.
Wow.
And that landed in a shop on Monday.
This Monday?
A couple weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
And by the end of the week, we had the set built. It wasn't painted or anything, but it came together pretty quickly, and at this point, it's pretty solid.
I mean, it looks at how much water do you think?
35,000 pounds of water,
Wow.
4,500 gallons.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it should be pretty spectacular.
Okay, we've teased you enough. Let's fire it up and see what 100+ mile-an-hour winds and thousands of gallons of water can do to your data center.
3,000 miles away at Symantec HQ, our expert engineers will be monitoring the failover.
Let's talk about what's going on while the storm rages. Right now, the semantic replicator option is replicating data from the primary site here in Richburg, South Carolina, to the secondary site 450 miles away in Ashburn, Virginia. Semantic Cluster Server is installed at both sites, continually monitoring the applications, databases, virtual machines, and hardware at the production data center. With the hurricane coming, we need to fail over all the applications and databases and do it quickly. With semantic storage and business continuity solutions, our engineers can do this with a click of a button. Everything should fail over to the secondary site before the floodwaters hit the primary site.
The winds are now over 40 miles per hour and still climbing. We've been instructed to clear the area now.
The winds are almost at 100 miles per hour now. Time's up. There goes the storm surge. Now that all the applications and databases have been evacuated from the primary site, Semantic Cluster Server recovers them automatically at the secondary site, in the correct order: database, application, and then the web servers. At the same time, it also reconnects the applications and database to the data that has already been replicated there. And while this was happening, our engineers in Mountain View were monitoring the failover and recovery with Veritas Operations Manager. That was incredible. But even more incredible is how Semantic was able to recover the Norton East store. Now, I know there are a few skeptics out there, and that's why we have Jason Buffington from ESG as an independent observer. Jason was in Mountain View the whole time and watched the business service and the application fail over. Jason, you're there in Mountain View. Can you confirm the business service and the data recovered as expected?
Yes, I can confirm that the business service and the data recovered successfully. The Norton East store is online and functional.
Is this a realistic scenario, Jason? I mean, have you ever seen anything like this before?
You know, in 20 years, I've heard about all kinds of outages, but I've never actually seen a flood in real time. That was pretty cool. Data centers have outages for all kinds of reasons, and whether it's for natural disasters like the hurricane flood, or a tornado, or winter blizzard, or whatever, maybe it's inside the building like a fire, or water main break, or power grid failure. Lots of reasons why servers go down. ESG actually recently did a survey on tolerance towards downtime, and we found that Tier 1 applications like what we were watching, seconds to minutes is the average. For normal applications, it was actually not that much different. It seems like in today's economy, every server has to be up all the time. There is no excuse for that. In fact, when organizations don't have the right kind of business continuity solution, that's going to almost always yield days of downtime, and that results in lost productivity, lost profitability, lost company reputation. Some of them never reopen at all. If you want to avoid all that, it's all going to start with re-examining how do you protect your mission-critical server.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jason.
To find out a little bit more about the hardware we're using and how we partnered with Intel, let's go to Doug and Pete in Mountain View.
So Pete, when we set up for this recovery, we implemented Storage Foundation in a shared nothing implementation running on Intel hardware and set up with a direct attached storage backend.
Yeah, Doug, we're really excited to be working with you and your team to validate the Intel SSD data center family across the semantic storage solutions.
And I think our partnership really has the potential to drive the next generation architectures of storage in the data center. What I found really interesting is that when we pulled the drives out of the water, they actually worked.
Amazing. By combining semantic control with Intel performance and reliability, we can deliver the managed performance to meet the needs of the data center. So full recovery of the drive and the data, truly amazing, and I'm sure you would agree we would expect nothing less.
Absolutely.
We're also using Red Hat solutions in our data centers. Doug now has Mark on a video call. Let's find out more about the solutions and our ongoing partnership with Red Hat.
This real-life eStore architecture is very similar to what we would see in data center environments today. Mark, We chose Red Hat Enterprise Linux as the platform for this demonstration because that's what customers are doing today.
Yes, Doug, that's exactly right. The eStore solution is very indicative of real customer environments that we see as well. And we do have a strong ongoing partnership with Symantec oriented at the data center, and we work hard to ensure that those offerings work well with the Red Hat solutions.
While we may have had a little fun with the simulation, the architecture and overall user experience is actually pretty common to what we'd see in data centers while we work together today.
That's very true. Customers who run storage and business continuity solutions from Symantec running with or on Red Hat Enterprise Linux can be assured that their critical business services will be restored within minutes, just as the demonstration showed.
Absolutely. Our partnership and collaboration is going to help ensure availability in the data center long into the future.
There you have it. Everything was a success. The failover happened in under 3 minutes, and the business was up and running just minutes after that. Now, we hope that you never have to go through anything like this, but it's good to know that even in the worst situation, your business will be safe. Keep your business up and running with Symantec Storage and Business Continuity Solutions. For more information, visit Symantec.com/business continuity.